What I want to show you in this video are 5 of my favorite ways to add a bit more creativity when it comes to my wedding work. So I've been shooting weddings for almost 9 years now, which is crazy for me to think about. Whenever I shoot a wedding, I'm always trying to think of a wow image or something unexpected. I love using lighting and camera settings or location or posing to just push what I think I can do to do something different, something out of my comfort zone. And not all the time does it work, but when it does, I'm really excited and my couples are too. Okay, the first one I want to talk about is what I call the booth. This is very inspired by vintage photo booths. So I recently thought of this idea just because I've been seeing photo booths everywhere lately. There are companies that do photo booth rentals for weddings, but I always liked the original vintage photos. So what I wanted to do was recreate that feeling that you get from going into a tiny little booth, paying $5 and getting that strip printed. Now, my way of doing this is a lot cheaper and a lot simpler than buying a photo booth. You can actually watch a full in-depth video of how I set this up, how I edit, what I use to overlay the images in Photoshop to make them look like that vintage charm to them. Really what I do is I use a C-stand and I use clips to hang a blue material I got at Joann Fabric, and then I use one light. I use a Profoto D1 light, and I either put a beauty dish or a 3-foot Octabox on it, and I put it right in front of the couple, about like 2 feet away from their face. And what this does is it gives that nice clean light on their face, but also a harsh shadow underneath their chin. And to me, this is what really emulates that vintage inspired look. Trust me, your couples are going to fall in love with. And honestly, I think you could even create a whole business around just this vintage inspired photo booth look. Okay, the next one is shutter drag. And I know this is something that is very common in the wedding industry, but I wanted to add this to my list as well because I know people that are also in the wedding industry that I've worked with before, and they sometimes have a hard time trying to do this look. And honestly, I sometimes have trouble doing this as well. This one is a little tricky because it definitely depends on a couple different factors. It depends on obviously your camera settings and the light that you're using, but also what kind of lights are in the venue, what time of day is it, are there DJ lights, are there Christmas lights? So many things go into factor here, but I want to break down just how I shoot it, and then I'll show you some examples, and I'm going to put the exact camera settings for each photo as well. So the big thing with shutter drag is a low shutter speed, and there's not really a correct answer to where you should have your shutter speed. When it comes to the light, I use a Profoto A10. However, Profotos are very expensive. I actually don't even own this. I rent it from a rental company in my town, but if you're able to get your hands on a Profoto, they're so easy to use, but you can use really any on-camera flash. And what I do is I point the flash directly at the subject. This really helps with freezing your subject and getting them in focus and everything else blurred out. But the best way, the best way to understand and to get this is to try it out at wedding receptions. I had a way of shooting wedding reception photos before that were less creative, just with a flash and everything was in focus and lit properly. And sometimes that is what the couple wants or what you need to get. However, what I decided was I was spending an hour or 2 hours on the dance floor. I would take 15, 20 minutes and just test out different settings on my camera. Now, a lot of these photos didn't turn out. But every once in a while, I would get something that I really, really liked. And usually I didn't know until I was sitting down editing the photos. And when that happens, I looked at the settings on that picture and it helped me understand better what range I needed my camera settings at. In a nutshell, a low shutter speed, a medium f-stop, I would say anywhere between 3 to 7, and then play around with your ISO. But my trick to shutter drag is all in the wrist. As soon as you hit that shutter button, you have to flick the camera. It's easier said than done. And like I said, you need a lot of practice with it. But trust me, these are the most fun images to take. This next one I started doing 4 or 5 years ago, and it's because I found an image on Pinterest. I can't remember what image I found, but it looked like the photographer was underneath the groom and the groomsmen were throwing him in the air. What I did was I just laid on the ground looking up, and I had the groomsmen all put out their arms, and I had the groom lay on their arms. This one just really gets a really genuine smile and laugh out of the groom. And here are some of the results. Okay, this next one is very similar. It's me laying on the ground again, but this time just with the couple. It's definitely an awkward position to be in. However, these are some of my favorite photos. I haven't done it in a while, but I feel like I used to be known for doing this pose. So what I do is I lay on my back and I tell the couple to be on either side of me and get really close and hold each other's hands. I always like when the bride's ring is showing, even if it's awkward and it's flipped the other way, I'll have them maybe move their hands or just spin the ring around just so I get a good shot of the ring. This definitely works better on an overcast day, and I've only ever tried it outside. It would be interesting to try this inside in a well-lit venue, but it's definitely one of my favorites. Okay, this final lighting is a gobo. So I use the Westcott Optical Spot by Lindsay Adler, who is another amazing photographer here on YouTube. This modifier helps you project shapes onto walls, onto subjects. It just helps you really control the light. And I use this with two different shapes, a heart and a circle. The nice thing is when you purchase this optical spot, it comes with a bunch of different shapes. So the first time I used it, there was this tiny little bathroom at a venue I was shooting at that had really cool wallpaper. And the bride pointed it out and said that she really wanted to shoot in there. However, it was a very small bathroom. I didn't really know how I'd get a good shot with it. And that's when I thought, oh, maybe I can use this modifier that I just bought weeks before for a personal project. I brought it with me on the day of, and it turned out awesome. I love the results. And what I like about this modifier is it just helps me create light and shapes that many people haven't seen before. It helps my work to stick out. I hope you liked this video. I hope you found it helpful. And I hope you're able to take these ideas and bring them into your own work or get inspired and come up with your own different ideas how to create cool, creative portraits at your weddings. If you found this helpful or liked it at all, feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.